My husband and I recently got married, and I felt that my sister-in-law tried to make our special day about her kids. I proposed to my sister-in-law's kids if they could be our flower girls for the special day. The kids were so excited and said yes. Everything seemed to go according to plan until 2 months before the wedding, when my sister-in-law asked me if the kids should have 2 dresses for 2 entrances, wedding ceremony and dinner reception. I told my sister-in-law that the kids will only have 1 entrance as our flower girls during my wedding ceremony. My sister-in-law looked upset and said they must walk during the dinner reception too. Note that my wedding ceremony and dinner reception was at the same location, and the wedding aisle was long, 85 feet long, so it takes some time to get from one end to the other, especially for kids. I am not the confrontational type, so I asked my husband to tell his sister that her daughters will only walk down the aisle once. My husband agreed and told his sister. My sister-in-law disapproved and said to my husband that he is the kids' only beloved uncle and that her daughters will never get a chance to be flower girls again. I thought everything was sorted out until the big day. The wedding ceremony went as it should, and the flower girls were so beautiful. However, when the dinner reception time came, and my husband and my entrance to the dinner reception was about to happen, the sister-in-law inserted her kids in front of us with fresh baskets of rose petals. The sister-in-law never told me nor my husband about this entrance. I was blindsided. Turns out that my sister-in-law went behind my back and told my maid of honor to tell the wedding MC to announce the flower girls first to the dinner reception. The flower girls entered the dinner reception, laying out a fresh set of rose petals down the aisle once more. While I was surprised, I was not angry nor sad, because it was a special day and I did not want to let bad emotions ruin the day. I was also going to let the MC introduce and thank the flower girls during the reception anyways, so I did not mind. This quickly changed when my sister-in-law planned a surprise dance by the daughters in the middle of dinner as a gift to us. The MC once again announced the flower girls, and they started dancing down the aisle onto the main stage again. So all in all, the kids walked down the aisle not once, not twice, but 3 times. My husband and I were supposed to have our first dance during this time, but instead, her daughters danced on the stage, while my husband and I had our first dance on the side. After the wedding, I told my husband how upset I was at his sister, and said she was trying to make the day about her kids. I confronted my sister-in-law about this, but she shrugged it off and said that they were just kids and I am being a bridezilla, an a-hole. Instead, my husband apologized on her behalf, which angered me more since it was not his fault. Am I the a-hole for confronting my sister-in-law that she was trying to make our wedding a showcase for her kids? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Send an itemized bill for use of the MC, the stage, the photographer, and the second and third entrance, as well as the dance. Boo on your maid of honor too. She's supposed to stop things like this from happening. She should not have aided in having the MC announce them. She should have barred the second petal throwing, and as maid of honor, it was absolutely her duty to tackle them off the stage. LL. Not the idiot, but when class and manners don't shame them, money always will. Go after that bag. Comment 2. Not the idiot, and I would be mad too. Your sister-in-law went against your wishes and behind your back on your wedding day to upstage you with her kids. If she wanted your guests to see her kids dance, then she should have her own party for them. I am sorry this happened to you on your wedding day. I would keep my distance from her. P.S. What did your in-laws say, if anything? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a week since I shared the story of my wedding day, and boy, do I have an update for you all. After the wedding, my husband and I took a few days to cool off before we decided to have a sit-down with his sister, my sister-in-law. We wanted to clear the air and express how her actions made us feel. We remembered how she always had a flair for the dramatic, even back in college when she would organize events and somehow always end up in the spotlight. We hoped that by talking it out, we could get past this and move on. The day of the talk, my sister-in-law arrived with the girls, who ran up to me with handmade sorry cards. They were adorable, and it was clear they didn't understand the full extent of what had happened. I appreciated the gesture, but I knew the real issue was with my sister-in-law, not the kids. We started the conversation gently, but it quickly heated up. My sister-in-law insisted that she was just trying to make the day memorable, and that I was overreacting. I reminded her of the time she took over our family Thanksgiving by insisting on a 5-course meal when we all wanted a simple dinner. It was another example of her making events about her grand plans. My husband, usually the peacemaker, surprised us both by firmly telling his sister that while we love her and the girls, our wedding was not the time for her to fulfill her dreams through her kids. He recounted how, as kids, she would often take over their playtime with elaborate stories where she was always the hero. It was a pattern that we could no longer ignore. The conversation took a turn when my sister-in-law's face dropped, and she confessed that she felt overshadowed by our wedding. She admitted that she had always felt competitive with us, especially since my husband and I had moved away for a few years for my job, which gave us a lot of exciting experiences that she felt she missed out on. We were shocked. We never knew she felt this way. My husband and I had always tried to include her in our lives, sharing our adventures and listening to her own stories. We thought back to the times we would send postcards from our travels, hoping to make her feel a part of our journey. The air in the room changed after her confession. We all sat in silence for a moment before my husband reached out and took his sister's hand. He told her that no competition could ever change the fact that they were siblings and that he loved her. I added that her daughters had been beautiful flower girls and that their role in our wedding was special because of them, not because of how many times they walked down the aisle. My sister-in-law wiped away a tear and apologized. She hadn't realized how her actions had affected our day and promised to make it up to us. We didn't need grand gestures. We just wanted our family to be whole again. As we wrapped up our talk, my sister-in-law suggested a small family dinner, just us and the kids, to celebrate our marriage properly. We agreed, and the dinner was set for the following weekend. The dinner was lovely. The girls had made decorations, and my sister-in-law cooked our favorite dishes. It was a simple evening filled with laughter and stories. My husband and I finally had our first dance, with our nieces clapping along. It wasn't the first dance we had planned, but it was perfect in its own way. As the night came to an end, my sister-in-law pulled us aside. She handed us a small photo album she had put together, filled with pictures of us and the girls from the wedding. She had even included a heartfelt note, thanking us for our understanding and for being a part of her family. Daughter gets new Mirabelle doll for Christmas, but Julie uses nail polish to paint her hair, face, and dress. Oh boy, she lives to regret it. This past Christmas, my mother got my daughter Amy, 4 years old, a doll she had been asking for. It's a baby version of Mirabelle from the Disney movie Encanto. It quickly became her favorite. My husband's cousin Nat has a daughter I'll call Julie, 6 years old. I wouldn't classify her as spoiled, but she does have a tendency to disobey other people. There have been numerous occasions in which I asked Julie to do something, please sit down, please don't touch that, etc. And she either ignored me or went behind my back to do the opposite. While I understand that she's a child, Nat rarely makes any attempts to educate her daughter or correct her behavior. Last week, Nat and Julie came to visit us with some other relatives. Julie saw the Mirabelle doll and asked my daughter if she could play with her. Amy refused. Julie protested, but I spoke with the girls and managed to get them to play with other toys. Sometime later, the kids sat down to watch TV while the others and I got dinner ready. When we went back to the living room, Julie was gone. After a short search, we found her in my bathroom. She had taken not only the Mirabelle doll, but also my nail polish carrying case. Julie had used my nail polish to paint the doll's hair, face, and dress. It covered most of her facial painting, matted her hair, and ruined her clothes. Amy saw what happened and was devastated. When we asked Julie what she was doing, she said she was giving the doll a makeover. Nat and Julie left in a hurry. The next day, I asked Nat what she planned to do about it. She suggested that the girls apologize to each other, Julie for painting the doll, Amy for not sharing it in the first place, and hug it out, and offered to give me a couple of new bottles of nail polish. I made it clear that Amy didn't need to apologize, and while I didn't care about the nail polish, they cost $4, and Julie didn't empty the bottles she used. I did expect Nat and her husband to replace the doll. Nat refused. She said that it wouldn't be fair for her to waste money over an innocent mistake a child had made. She also doesn't think Julie should be the only one apologizing, as none of this would have happened if Amy had agreed to share in the first place. I asked her twice. She said no both times. Finally, I called her husband and explained the situation. He apologized profusely and agreed to buy Amy a new doll. He stopped by on Saturday and gave it to us. He also brought Julie along and made her apologize to Amy. Apparently, Nat and her husband fought over this, as she kept insisting that Julie was just a child and they owed us nothing. So now, in addition to saying it was entitled of me to expect a new doll, she is blaming me for their fight. My husband is on my side, but my mother-in-law thinks I should apologize, as this has blown out of proportion and I could have dealt with it more gracefully. She also thinks it was wrong of Amy to refuse to share. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Oh my god, how infuriating. There is no reason your daughter should have had to share her doll in the first place. Mother-in-law is way out of line for that. Your daughter shared her other toys. You know damn well that the other little girl did that to your daughter's doll deliberately out of spite. I'm angry at you for even considering, for a moment, that you're wrong in this. The other daughter's mother is so far out of line, it's insane. Not the jerk, NTA. And for the love of God, never let those jerks in your house again. Comment 2. This share stuff is baloney. Exactly what are we teaching our children? Skills they need in later life? Do adults share their cars, their home, their jewelry? We should be teaching our children that if someone owns something, then it's theirs, and no one is entitled to it. Sorry about the rant. Not the jerk, NTA. Their daughter didn't just play with something, she destroyed it. Most likely, maliciously. They should replace it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. I wanted to give you an update on the situation with my daughter's Mirabelle doll and my husband's cousin, Nat's daughter, Julie. So, after the whole disaster with the doll, things were pretty tense. Nat wasn't talking to me, and her husband was caught in the middle of it all. He's always been the more reasonable one, and I could tell he was embarrassed by the whole situation. A couple of days after he brought over the new doll, I noticed Amy wasn't playing with it as much as I expected. When I asked her about it, she said it wasn't the same as her original Mirabelle doll. You see, the one my mother had given her had a little defect in the dress. A tiny red thread that Amy said was Mirabelle's special mark. It made my heart sink to see her trying to accept the new doll when it clearly wasn't the same for her. Meanwhile, my husband had been pretty quiet about the whole thing. He's not one to get involved in family drama, but I could tell he was upset. He grew up with Nat, and they used to be close, but her behavior over the years had put a strain on their relationship. This incident with Julie seemed to be the last straw for him. A few days later, we had a family gathering at my mother-in-law's house. It was the first time I'd seen Nat since the incident. She walked in with Julie, and the air was thick with tension. Everyone was walking on eggshells, trying to avoid the topic. But then, something unexpected happened. Julie came up to Amy, and without any prompting, handed her a small package. Inside was a Mirabelle doll, but not just any Mirabelle doll. It was Amy's original doll, cleaned up as best as Julie could manage. The nail polish was mostly gone, though the hair was still a bit stiff and the dress slightly stained. But there it was, the little red thread on the dress. Julie had spent the last few days trying to fix the doll. She looked up at Amy and said, "I'm sorry I ruined your special Mirabelle. I tried to make her better." Amy's face lit up, and she hugged Julie, thanking her for bringing her doll back. Nat was watching from across the room, and I could see the mixed emotions on her face. She approached me later, and to my surprise, apologized. She admitted she had been wrong, and that seeing her daughter take responsibility had made her realize she needed to do the same. My husband, who had been watching the exchange, came over and put his arm around me. He whispered that he was proud of how I handled everything, and that he was glad Amy got her special doll back. As for my mother-in-law, she seemed relieved that the tension had eased. She pulled me aside and said that maybe she had been too quick to judge and that she was sorry for not supporting me. The rest of the evening went by without incident. Amy and Julie played together, this time with Amy willingly sharing her toys. It seemed like the ordeal had taught Julie a valuable lesson about respecting other people's belongings. As for Nat, I could tell she was making an effort to be more attentive to Julie's behavior. It wasn't a complete turnaround, but it was a start, and her husband seemed relieved that the family was mending bridges. I got Peacock Premium for $2.50 to watch FNAF movie, but now my aunt wants me to change my profile picture on it. Oh boy, she's in for a surprise. I am a college student, so I had a way of signing up for Peacock Premium for a reduced rate. I originally got it for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but I have branched out. They also have La Brea, which is a Mom and I show. Plus, I have engaged in some of my guilty pleasures. Trolls movie series. That said, since Five Nights at Freddy's holds a special place in my heart, the profile picture I set for myself is Freddy Fazbear himself. Either way, this is not about that. You might be wondering why my aunt has my Peacock account. The answer is my uncle. my dad's fiancée Maria, and I went to go visit my grandparents. And turns out my Uncle Jerry was visiting from out of state. We visited on football night, so my grandfather, my dad, and Uncle Jerry were trying to watch the game. Bad news. Whatever my grandpa uses to get his channels on his TV failed. Uncle Jerry said we could use Peacock to watch it, but since they don't have an account, they'd need to pay for it. This is where I came in. I signed in on his iPad, and they watched it a bit on there, but then they wanted to scale up, so I signed in on my grandparents' Fire Stick. Simple as that. They enjoyed the game, and then soon we left for home. A few days pass, and I don't hear anything. But then I get a text from my Aunt Melinda, Jerry's wife, saying, "You need to change the picture on your Peacock account. It's too scary for me and the kids." Uncle Jerry has 2 sons, and they're 10 and 7 respectively. They're also very much of the Christian faith, so I bring that up because their household is not conducive to horror. However, Freddie holds a dear place in my heart for many reasons that I won't outline here. I told Aunt Melinda that I didn't want to, and she said that I still need to. I then told her, if you don't want to see Freddie every time you open Peacock, get your own account, and stopped responding. Aunt Melinda isn't a particularly vindictive person, so I think that's why she didn't respond directly to me after that. Later on, I got a call from Dad asking what happened, and I had to explain. He wasn't mad per se, but wasn't exactly proud. Here's everyone's position. Aunt Melinda wants me to apologize and change my profile picture. Uncle Jerry says I should consider doing it for Aunt Melinda and the boys. Says that I have a point and that it's my prerogative, but says there will be an impact. Says that since I'm the one paying for the account, I have the final say. Mom told me I wasn't in the wrong at all, and I should change my password and sign out of all devices that aren't mine. I am mentally at a stalemate personally. Should I give this up? Should I just change it? Think it'll blow over? Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, Mom's right. Log out of all devices and change your password. Not only are they wrong for criticizing you for something you let them use, you risk losing your discounted service. Read your terms and services. You may be okay sharing, you may not be. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You are paying for the account. Sign out, change the password, and Auntie and Nibblings won't have to be traumatized by a picture of Freddy Fazbear. Problem solved. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, back with an update on the Peacock profile pic drama. It's been a wild week, and I've got to say, things escalated in ways I never expected. So, after my last post, I decided to hold my ground. Freddy Fazbear was staying. I mean, it's my account, right? I thought that would be the end of it, but boy was I wrong. A couple of days later, I was at my part-time job when I got a text from my cousin, the 10-year-old. He's pretty tech-savvy for his age, and he sent me a message that just said, "Uncle, why do you like scary things?" It hit me right in the feels, guys. I never wanted to scare the kids, but I also didn't want to be pushed around. I replied, explaining that Freddy was from a game that I liked, and that it wasn't meant to scare him. He sent back a thumbs-up emoji, and I thought that was that. But then, the next day, my phone blew up with notifications during class. Turns out, my Aunt Melinda had taken to the family group chat to air her grievances. She posted a long message about how I was being insensitive to her and the kids' feelings, and how family should be more important than a profile picture. It was a full-on guilt trip, and she even brought up how my Uncle Jerry had helped me out with my car troubles last summer, implying I owed them. I was fuming, but before I could even respond, my dad's fiancée, Maria, jumped in to defend me. She pointed out that I was an adult and could make my own choices. This led to a huge back and forth in the group chat, with various family members chiming in. It was like watching a tennis match where the ball was my Peacock account. The next day, Uncle Jerry called me. He was trying to be the peacemaker, saying that it wasn't worth causing a rift over something so small. He reminded me of the time he took me fishing when I was younger and how we bonded over that. He said he didn't want something like this to spoil our relationship. I was torn, Reddit. On one hand, I didn't want to cave, but on the other hand, I didn't want to be the cause of family tension. So, I made a decision. I changed the profile picture to a neutral image of a peacock, the bird, not the logo. I thought it was a fair compromise. But here's the jaw-dropping part. The next time I logged in, I noticed something odd. There were new profiles added to my account. One for each of my cousins, and one for Aunt Melinda. They had gone ahead and made themselves at home on my account, complete with their own profile pics and watch lists. I was shocked. It felt like a betrayal, especially after I'd changed the picture to keep the peace. I called my mom to vent, and she was livid. She said I should follow her original advice and change the password and sign out of all devices. So, I did just that. I changed the password and kicked everyone off. It felt like reclaiming my territory. But the fallout was immediate. Aunt Melinda called me, and she was upset. She said I was being petty and that I'd hurt the boys by taking away their profiles. I tried to explain that it was my account and that they had crossed a line by adding profiles without asking, but she wasn't having any of it. She ended the call by saying that she was disappointed in me. Now, here's the bittersweet ending. Uncle Jerry texted me later that night. He said he understood why I did what I did and that he was sorry for how things turned out. He also said he'd miss watching the football games with me, even if it was just through a shared account. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.